All right, everybody, welcome to the Blue Collar Trade Show. Real conversations with real people who build, fix, serve, and lead America. My name is Troy, and with me is Chad, Jim, and Marissa. Every week we sit down with business owners, tradespeople, veterans, entrepreneurs, and everyday folks who turn grit into greatness. No fluff, no corporate nonsense, just honest stories, powerful lessons, and the truth of what it takes to succeed in work and life. And we're going to have a little fun while we do it. So let's jump in. All right, so let's do this is our first one, so let's do some quick intros. I'll introduce myself. So my name is Troy, and I have been in the trades for a long time in some way, shape, or form, even though I'm not a tradesperson. So I grew up in a blue-collar home. My father was a carpenter, and he told me from day one, as much as I wanted to be a carpenter, he told me that he wanted me to use my brain and not my back, right? So he wouldn't let me, even though I had my own little tool belt and followed around like a little kid, he wouldn't let me do much outside of build forts in the tree line. And anyway, so jumping ahead, in 25 years ago now, I fell into a commission-only sales opportunity with the little heating and air conditioning business up in the great state of Minnesota. And the question that was asked me in my job interview is, what do I know about heating and air conditioning? And the answer was, I know I have one, and the one I have is green. And that's really pretty, and honestly, 25 years later, I don't know that much more than then, but I've worked I've owned, I've operated, I've done just about every sort of management skill, sales skill task there is. We started the blue collar recruiting firm about 5 years ago now, and it's been an absolute pleasure meeting clients and candidates, and we've placed thousands of people throughout the country. We've trained lots of people through our virtual trade school. I'm very, very proud of what we've done. What I'm super excited about is that we're going to start this little podcast thing, and we're going to keep it light. We're going to keep it normal. We're going to keep it just as realistic as possible. We're not going to have brain drains of boring topics and want. We're going to have some fun talking, and we're going to pick on each other a little bit. So that's a little bit about me. We're going to have these three people along with me, Marissa, Chad, and Jim, on each show. We're going to bring a lot of different guests. We're going to bring a lot of little topics. We're going to bring a lot of fun and humor to this thing. So where do we want to start? Anybody have any questions for me?
I do.
Okay.
If you could have one tool, what would it be?
If I could have one tool, what would it be? All right. So I would say that my favorite tool, there's a lot of tools in the toolbox. And honestly, if I think back to my dad, I have tools in my garage right now that my dad gave me when I was about 5 years old. So that's kind of cool. But the tool that I've had for a long, long time, and it seems to come out more than any other, is a Leatherman tool. Anybody know what that is?
Absolutely.
Right? So it's kind of a multi-purpose, pliers, knife, scissors, got all of it. And it has, I don't know if they make them like this anymore, but it had this little really cool leather pouch that it went into and snapped to your belt when you're a kid. I still have the one that I think I got when I was 12 years old. That, Marissa, is my favorite tool.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for me before we go around?
I got one for you, Troy. I want to hear about your first business. That's what I want to hear.
My first business.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've had the opportunity to work and do a lot of things in my life. I'm very fortunate for that. But it all started when I was about 10 years old.
10. I had a paper route. What did you do?
It's not a
I
paper
did too.
route.
Yeah.
So we grew up outside of a small town on a kind of a farming area, just south of the Twin Cities. And my grandparents, my grandfather owned a bunch of farm and land. And then my dad and my aunts and uncles, and they sold the farm, but he kept a bunch of houses. So we all lived next to each other. So I was very close to my family. And my grandfather gave me about a half a dozen gopher traps. So if you're a sports fan, you know the Minnesota Golden Gophers. It's a real thing. Gophers are everywhere. And what they do in the upper Midwest is they destroy yards. So when a gopher, a pocket gopher, right, goes into, they burrow holes and they just make these big giant mounds of dirt. And so he showed me how to get them out with these traps. And I got to be pretty good at it. And a buddy of mine, who I'm going to shout out, Rusty Kimmis, shout out to Rusty. Him and we each had a three-wheeler. Remember those old Honda three-wheelers? I had a 185S and he had a Yamaha something. And we put these old milk crates on the back of our three-wheelers, and we took all of our traps and we made some little stick flags, and we made business cards that said, "Gopher trapping by Troy and Russ. You got them, we get them. $3 each." And
Okay.
so what we would do is we would go drive all over the neighborhoods on our three-wheelers, and if we saw a gopher mound in somebody's yard, we'd go knock on the door, and I'd stand there and go, "Excuse me, sir, but I see that you have a couple of gophers in your front yard. I can get those for you, and they're only $3 each." And they'd always say yes, of course, right? So we go out there and dig out the hole and trap the gopher, and come back the next day and cut off the tail to keep track of it. So our first summer, I don't know, I think we got 60 or 70 gophers that first summer, just doing that. Yeah.
Your accounting system was the tails of the gophers.
Well, so there was two. We were double dipping, as you would say, right? So we would not only get paid by the homeowner for trapping the gopher, and they didn't need more proof than I got the gopher, right? Most of them didn't even want to see that. The township we lived in is kind of like a pelt, so they're a rodent, right? And so they would pay us 25 cents or 50 cents, I don't remember, for every gopher that we trapped. So they'd have to have proof of it, I guess.
Right.
So the best story of that. So that first summer we did it, we just had like a machine. We just went around and just went back and forth in circles all the time. And I remember going to a town hall meeting, me and looking like Huckleberry Finn and short pants and the whole thing. And I had
I've already pictured it that way in my head.
It is exactly that. And I had a coffee can, right? An old rusty steel coffee can filled with gopher tails. And I walk into the town hall meeting at 7:00 at night, and it's all these people there, right, with their agenda and their itinerary and their minutes and all that kind of thing. And I'm just sitting in the back of the meeting with my can of gopher tails, and they're going around, and I go, "Is there any business to attend to?" And the guy up front, the main guy, he said his name is Fran Tiber, and he goes, "Looks like there's a young man in the back of the room. What's your business, son?" And so I walk up there and I said, "I have gopher feet or gopher tails." And he goes, "Well, how many do you have?" And I took the can and I started peeling back the top, right? Because I thought they were going to count them, right? I was going to pour them out on the table and they were going to 1, 2, 3. But as soon as they got a whiff of that for the can, they're like, "No, we trust him. Pay the kid." So I walked out of there, and the very first thing I thought of was, man, I should have said 100. Cut him a check. But
You were
so that was
the
our first business.
original.
We made a few $100s that summer. Yeah.
You were the
Yeah.
original Carl Spackler. You remember Carl Spackler?
No.
He was Bill Murray in Caddyshack.
Oh, that's right.
Hunting the
Yeah,
gopher. Yeah. You were the original.
That's right. I
That's
forgot
the
his
most
name was Carl.
Midwestern story I think that will ever be told in the
I'm gonna
country.
find this. So this is, if you can see it. So I have my cousin Debbie gave me a picture of our business card. I still keep it in my wallet. Gopher trapping by Troy and Russ. You got
him, we get him.
That's wild, man.
Yes, sir. 10 years old, back when you can do stuff.
Yeah,
What do you think of that? I should have
That's
kept
a
that
heck of
going.
a story.
that is one
Yeah.
heck of a story.
And you say that you didn't have a blue collar background. Come on.
I know.
That's about as blue collar as it gets.
For sure.
Yes,
Thanks.
sir. All right. Well, let's continue on. All right. So that's a little bit about me. We'll get to know everybody a little bit better as we go. So, Chad, how about you?
Yeah, sure. I come from a very small rural area of southwestern Ohio, just over the river. Okay. I come from a background of blue collar workers. I'm so blue collar that the area where I came from, I just thought everybody, and I just grew up thinking everybody was blue collar, right? I'd hear my dad out there in the driveway at 4:00 in the morning, starting up whatever $500 1970s POS that we had that year, and fighting with it just to get to work on time. And then I didn't go and trap gophers. Now now I wish I had a time machine because that's awesome. But
Great
I
job.
got a job when I was 10 years old delivering papers. And then I'm kind of at the grit side of your story in the trades. I stayed out in the field and up in the attics and down the basements, the crawl spaces, doing real blue collar work for.
How old were you?
When I got my first job doing air conditioning, I was 16 years old.
16.
Yeah,
No.
that was over 30
How
years.
old were you when you got your first job at all?
That's the paper route. 10 years old.
10 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But when I was 16, I was out doing air conditioning work, and I grew up. Back where I grew up, like you had an option to go to a factory and work, maybe a GM plant or something like that, or you were in the trades, and that was it. Or you're going to work at 3 gas stations at a time. So I chose to do that, and then it took me all over the country, this job, and
Really?
I've done a lot of amazing things and seen a lot of amazing things in my career. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I got a question for you, Chad. So you say you grew up in hillbilly country.
Yeah.
How did that kind of set the course for where you're at today?
Oh, well, if you were a real man's man back in the 90s, right? That's what you did, was trades work. And in my family, there was there was only 2 things that were non-negotiable. You had to drive a Chevy or a GM product, okay? And you had to be a man's man. So just like some people are told that they have to go to college and things of that nature, I was told that you have to be a man's man. And that was my way to honor my family. And so all throughout my career, I always remember my dad telling me, do your job better than the next guy, and then you'll have his job. And that always kind of worked out for me. And I always enjoyed working on things and taking things apart, but it got really enjoyable when I could put them back together and it actually worked,
How often does that happen? Is that still 100% or 80?
I'm at 100% now, have been for
man.
a couple decades. Yeah. Yeah.
I to go back, so I remember my wife just asked me the other day how old I was when I got my first W-2 form for taxes or W-4 or whatever. I was 12. So there was, back in the day, we would do detasseling corn. You ever had to do that job? Walking. So as they'd hire all these children, and we jump on school buses and they take us out to these cornfields. And before they had the machines that detasseled the corn automatically, they sent children into the fields. I was one of those children.
Like the
So you were
corn
children
salad.
of the corn.
$2.12 an hour, which is pretty big time back then.
That's big money.
I made hundreds of dollars that summer,
Yeah.
working thousands of hours.
Yeah, I spent my time on the farm too. And when I go back and look at those jobs that I had when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old, working on the farm, there's no way that they would give a 10 or 12-year-old
They'd all
kid
be in
all these
jail.
sharp tools, stand next to machinery that could obliterate you like that if you just made a wrong step. Yeah. A lot different back then, wasn't it?
I remember, so my second job after that worked, but I was probably 13 or 14, got a job at another farm, a vegetable farm. So I'd work on the farm, do the tractor work and pull weeds and whatever, but I'd go on the weekends to the farmer's market and I'd stay at the owner's house with his family. I'm starting to second guess how good of parents I had.
Yeah, no kidding.
Whatever. Go sleep with them in St. Paul. Yeah. It was really,
I thought you were raised by a
well,
pack of wolves anyway. I didn't think you had a parents over there, the way you've been talking.
funny. All right. What other questions do we have for Chad? What's your favorite tool, Chad?
Well, I have lots of tools. A Leatherman, I was born with a Leatherman in my hand, actually. That's like the thing that they give you at the hospital. Not those
God bless your mother.
not those little shoes or anything. It's like, here's your Leatherman, get to work. I think my favorite tool would have to be my brand new wet tile saw that I picked up the other day. Now I'm actually looking forward to redoing my bathroom that I was dreading doing.
So that's a tool you won't leave home without, is your wet tile saw.
Wet tile saw. Yeah,
Because you never know when you're driving down the road and there's going to be a piece of tile that needs to be cut.
that's right. Well,
Never
now
know.
I'm looking. I told everybody, say, man, you got any tile? You got any tile you need me to cut?
You'll be at McDonald's. There's always broken tile. Be in the bathroom.
Yeah.
There
Put the
you
little
go.
strip. Yeah.
Yeah.
He jumps out and says, "Hey, let me get that for you."
All right, let's hear about you, Jim.
Well, grew up in a blue collar family. My dad was an iron worker, and that's kind of what Chad was talking about. That's really all we knew. I grew up in Tucson, and the part of Tucson I grew up in was pretty much all blue collar, except you worked in the mines. There was a lot of copper mines in Arizona, and so a lot of the kids I grew up with went to work in the mines, but they were underground mines, and I couldn't do that. There was no way that I was going to do that. So when I graduated from high school, I ended up going in the Navy and spent 21 years in the Navy. And when I got out of the Navy, a friend of mine was working for a franchise, and it was a electrical franchise, home service franchise. And I went to work selling franchises, and I ended up doing that ever since. So I've really only had two careers. I had the military for 21 years, and now I've been in franchising for the past 25 years. So actually more than that now, but and so that's really all I've known, and that's what really drew me to the blue collar, where we're at now, because just seeing what the people buying a franchise or people getting into the trades and taking a business that they started out of the back of their truck and turning it into a multi-million-dollar company is just something to behold. And
Yeah.
To see people that really, they didn't have the money to go to college, they didn't have the wherewithal to do anything. They ended up going in the trades. And back when I was growing up, those were the choices. You went in the military, you went in the trades, or you went to college. And
Or jail.
or jail, right? Yeah. And you talk about first jobs. I remember I had a paper route like Chad did. I worked as a dishwasher at a restaurant, but my first real job, I worked in McDonald's, and I remember I was making $1.05 an hour, and I remember I got a raise to $1.10, and thinking, man, I am on my way.
That's
There's no
almost
stopping
5%
me
raise.
now.
That's pretty good.
I mean,
That's pretty good.
yeah,
Yeah.
$1.10 an hour. Holy crap! I drove home in my Chevy Corvair. Man, you just couldn't
Corvair.
touch me. Oh yeah,
Nice. man.
'64 Corvair Monza. What a
If
beaut
you
that
if you
was.
still had that Corvair,
Yeah, no kidding.
awesome.
Yeah.
So how
there
many
you have it.
franchises have you sold? So you've been primarily in the home services,
Home
blue collar
services?
franchise space. How many of those have you helped people start?
Gosh, I over probably close to 700,
700.
and yeah, I would bet quite a few. And yeah, I love everyone. It's just been a great ride, a lot
Everyone?
of fun. And
Everyone?
just seeing how people change and how they go from not really understanding a business to really becoming the master of a business is pretty special. So
Yeah, for sure. Heck, look at us. Okay.
yeah,
All right. Who has a question for Jim? Who wants to ask a question? Get
I have a
personal.
question. So,
All right.
Jim,
okay.
as a boomer, you're a boomer, right? What's the one thing you have most in common with millennials and Gen Z?
I think the only thing I have in common is I breathe oxygen. That's about it. That's the only thing I have in common with them. But actually, I don't think. I think that it doesn't matter what group people fall into. I find myself drawn to people that like to help others, drawn to people that like to succeed. So I think the age thing is kind of crazy. In fact, I'm married to a Gen Z, so or millennial, I guess.
Well, yeah,
So yeah.
I think
That's
millennials
very
are the
nice.
best.
Let me ask. So that's a good question. It's an interesting question. So that comes up a lot, right? So I'm a Gen X. Chad, you're probably a Gen X. Jim's clearly a boomer, right? Marissa's a millennial. Here's the thing: we all think that our generation was badass and everything we're so amazing, and it's not true. I know a lot of people my age that were total losers and didn't work and were super lazy, everything they described. today about Gen Zs or anybody else. Certainly existed back then. And I personally know millennials and Gen Zs who are amazing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Thank
funny, but
God.
everybody wants to puff their chest and say, "Well, this whole world's going to unravel without me." I think that's what it always comes down to, right?
No,
All
yeah,
right.
it's
What's your favorite
nostalgia
tool,
of your
Jim?
generation.
What's that? Sorry.
My favorite tool, I think that I'm going to have to share a quick story. So and Troy, you'll relate to this. And Chad, you probably knew him too. There was a plumber. His name was Jack Pruitt,
Yeah.
and knew him through franchising and knew him many, many years ago when he started his first franchise. And when I was living in Florida, we got a new refrigerator and it had a water or an ice maker, and a water line needed a water line. And so I called Jack and asked him if he would come over and hook up the water line. And so he said, sure. So he comes over, and he came into my house, and all he had was a pair of channel locks. And I said, don't you need any tools? He goes, and he had this big Texas accent. And he said, Jimmy, I can plumb a house with a pair of channel locks.
Yeah.
And by God, he ran that line with a pair of channel locks. So I think I'm going to go with channel locks.
That's
There you
Jack.
go. Do you own a channel locks?
I do. I have a couple pairs.
Do you bring it with you everywhere like Chad does with his wet saw?
I do, because when he needs somebody to hold that piece of tile, I'll be there with my channel lock.
I want to see the belt loop for that saw. All right, Marissa, let's hear about you. Everybody's anxious to learn more about who's this girl on the Blue Collar Call.
Yay. So I'm Marissa. I grew up in Northwest Indiana, so definitely super divided, but I would say a good mix. 50% like all blue collar, we have lots of mills and everything, and then 50% where, you're supposed to go to college and follow that path. So I've been recruiting in the trades for about 4 years now, and I love it. I get to work with some of like the hardest working, like funniest people that I've met, and I love it. They're super genuine. I think nothing's sugar coated. They're super raw, real, and that's what like makes it rewarding. I'm like, just learned so much. I did go to college and graduate. I have a ton of student loan debt that I'm still paying off, and so I think just like kind of hearing their stories and kind of also like seeing their offers or like what they get and like their great benefits and everything. I'm like, I've learned so much and built really good relationships, seeing their careers grow. And so I think that's kind of like my little path, and I like it. I love it. I love everything I do every day. It's different. Some crazy stories, some like super, emotional stories. So it's super rewarding.
You said you still have some college debt from your degree?
Some, I have a lot. Yeah. I think I still have like, like 15,000.
15,000?
Yeah. And that's how
Maybe
we've
we'll
been
start a
paying.
GoFundMe for Marissa if everything goes well. What do y'all say?
Perfect.
All right, I have a question for you, Marissa. So I've known you for a few years, right? And we've become friends. You've made something perfectly clear to me over the last few years, is that you've made it a personal promise to yourself that the only people you would ever date is a blue collar guy.
It's true.
Why is that? Only. That seems like a pretty fine line in the sand.
It is.
What's wrong with white collar guys like Jim?
Strong man, strong hands. We don't like soft hands. No, I mean, I feel like they're super hardworking. And then also, like, I need someone to fix things, or like if I have a project or like an idea, like, I want you to do it right now and know how to do it and not have to call someone. Like, I broke my blind. Well, I was opening my blinds and something happened. So then it like fell over, and then I just ripped it. And like, now I need a new man. Help me fix this.
Do you need any tile work done?
I could probably use some tile work. Actually, I do want to redo the bathroom.
Chad's like, I got nothing. I only do tile. Yeah.
And I'll use some of what's Jim's
he's a
things?
happily married guy though, so
Something.
channel locks. I don't know if that would
Channel
help.
lock, channel
Maybe
something.
probably get you further than a tile saw.
I need
All
a
right. So
measuring
what's the tool? What's the one tool you'll never leave the house without, Marissa? You have to have
measuring
something in
tape.
that purse.
I need measuring tape.
Measuring
I
tape?
don't have it yet, but I've realized that's a super
What's
important
a
tool.
measuring tape? You mean a tape measure?
Yeah,
Oh,
we
tape
call it a
measure.
tape measure over here.
Tape measure. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah,
I was like
yeah,
trying to
no,
measure the windows and the ruler. It doesn't really work. So I'm like, I
You have a
need a
ruler?
yeah. I have two, but no tape or
You
what's it called?
taped your rulers together to measure your window?
Well, no, I put my other finger and then tried putting the ruler after my finger to keep going and counting, and that's why it's just not working out.
Doesn't fit, huh? That's
what about if
very
you had a
unusual.
career in the blue collar trades? Are you up for it?
Yeah, I could. Well, yeah, you gotta teach me.
Yeah, I have had, I can only count on one hand, and that's sad because, and it was five. I've had five female service technicians work for me over the last 15 years, and they were all terrific. They did a wonderful job.
Women
So
are amazing.
don't
Did,
count yourself out.
Detail
do they have any
oriented.
college debt?
Yeah, we can get those that's paid off quick in the blue collar trades.
Yeah, I don't even remember anything I learned.
Oh boy.
You remember how to measure things with a ruler. You still got your ruler from third grade. That's good.
It's cute, it has flowers.
I feel like if you look hard enough, you have a tape measure somewhere at your house.
You have
it's
to.
just, I don't think it's
I
possible for you not to have
don't.
one.
I have a
That's
drill
crazy.
with no bits, and I have a couple screwdrivers. Oh, and I have some
Oh,
like yellow strap thing I think you can put with your car or something. I don't know. I have that too. But I don't know how to use
All
it.
right. Well, I've heard this now twice. And I can't hear it a third time. So you need to text me your address, and I'm sending you a tape measure because this is
Texting you
just
now.
it's pathetic.
making you
We gotta
sad?
help.
Yeah. All right. Well, I wanted our first show to really just be just a little glimpse into who we are and what we're all about, what we hope to bring to the table. We're going to bring some fun to this. We're going to bring some real exposure to this. But for our second episode, Marissa, what do you think we should do?
I think it would be fun if for the next episode we had some questions from the audience, to set the tone for future shows, see if they have any, they want to learn anything or they have personal questions about Chad, where he's taking that saw everywhere and what he's doing each day. What do you guys think?
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great
I
idea.
think that's
Yeah.
awesome.
All
I,
right. So
I
how do they
always
do that?
I always love answering people's questions about how, about the job, about working, about how to measure their window using a tape measure, whatever. So yeah,
So
I think it's an awesome idea.
Yeah.
I know it's brilliant. I'm
Answering
brilliant.
questions.
If
How
you
many
guys,
people? So
all your questions,
Jim has helped 700 people start a business. How many people have you helped start a career, Chad?
Oh my goodness, hundreds.
Yeah.
Yep,
There you go.
hundreds.
There you go.
I
And
think they should
still,
address it.
I still
Any
keep in
questions
touch with
to
some of them.
Chad should be to the saw. Chad the Saw.
I'll
Huddleston.
change that
Ah.
on mic. Yeah, I got you.
Do you have a nickname, Chad, that you want us to use?
My nickname growing up was Badger because I
Really?
just would not stop.
The
Like if
Badger and the
something,
Gopher? Is that what we're going to
I was
go
no,
going
with?
to say,
that,
thank God it wasn't Gopher.
yeah, I know, right?
Troy would have your tail.
Yeah.
Badgers are mean, though. Yeah.
It wasn't because I was mean, because I was never mean, but once I started something, I just would never give up until it was taken care of or done. So they called me the Badger.
It's
And
like
that's what my wife still calls me. Like I'm out there in the garage working on the truck and it's gone for hours. She's like, all right, Badger, get in here. Supper's ready. And I'm like, all right.
oh, that's cute and very adorable.
very.
Yeah.
All right. How
So,
does the audience, how do they get in touch with you, Marissa, to give us some questions?
any questions you guys have, you can send me a message at 512-402-3611. 1, 2, 3 questions, all the questions you have that you'd like us to cover in our future shows.
There you go. DM Marissa at 512-402-3611. There you go. Thank you all for tuning in to the Blue Collar Trade Show today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, share it with someone who would get value from it. If you'd like to start a career, train up, or grow your business, visit us at thebluecollarrecruiter.com. Until next time, be kind to people, be great at what you do, and have fun doing it. It's cheaper than therapy.